President Donald Trump yesterday dodged a White House reporter's question on the poisoning of Russian President Vladimir Putin critic Alexei Navalny.
Who do you think poisoned Alexei Navalny?
Say it.
Who do you think poisoned Alexei Navalny in Russia?
We'll talk about that at another time.
Navalny was poisoned on a flight from Siberia in late August and has been recovering in a German hospital. And while the president continues to avoid the question, a statement released earlier this month by the G7 foreign ministers of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States says, in part, we, the G7 foreign ministers, call on Russia to urgently and fully establish transparency on who is responsible for this abhorrent poisoning attack, and adds, quote, we will continue to monitor closely how Russia responds to international calls for an explanation of the hideous poisoning of Mr. Navalny.
And yet Donald Trump afraid
can't even answer the
actually
question.
Criticize Vladimir Putin after
On
4
his
years
tippy
in
toes.
office. Let's bring in right now retired three-star Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, who's a national security advisor for President Trump between 2017 and 2018. He's out with a book, Battlegrounds, the fight to defend the free world. And General, thank you so much, first of all, for your service to this nation, both in and out of uniform. Thank you also for writing this book. Before we go to the specifics of the book, I'd love for you to give us what insight you can on what's disturbed a lot of us, obviously disturbed Dan Coates when he was at DNI, where we see the president afraid to talk about Navalny. We see the president afraid to talk about bounties on young Americans' head. We see the president in Helsinki defending Vladimir Putin over the intel community. We see the president saying, well, we kill a lot of people too, defending Vladimir Putin time and time again. Of course, we could also talk about the ceding of Syria to Vladimir Putin and the Russians for the first time since '73. Well, can you help us understand better why the president is so fearful of crossing Vladimir Putin?
Well, thanks, Joe, and thanks, Meek. It's great to be with you. This is an important question, right? How we perceive Russia. And what I write about in Battlegrounds is our tendency to what I call strategic narcissism, to define the world as we would like it to be, and then to base our strategies and our policies on really wishful thinking and ultimately self-delusion. And what I call for in the book is strategic empathy, to pay more attention to the emotions and aspirations that drive the other, and in this case, Vladimir Putin. Hey, and I think what's important for all Americans to know is Vladimir Putin will never be our friend. He is never going to change this kind of behavior. What Vladimir Putin wants to do is he wants to drag us down and pit us against each other, weaken our societies from within. And what he's conducting is a sustained campaign of political subversion against the United States, against Europe, and our other allies. And the sooner we recognize that, I mean, the more effective we're going to be. Now, I think that I can't explain, President Trump's, not taking that question, for example. I think it's really, I can't think of any other plausible alternative to the Kremlin poisoning Navalny, like they attempted to do with Sergei Skripal and his daughter in Salisbury in, I think it was April of 2018. So I think what we have to do is continue to impose costs on Russia beyond those that maybe Vladimir Putin factors in when he makes these kinds of decisions. In the book, though, what I do is I place the Trump administration's approach to Russia, as you kind of alluded to, Joe, in context of several administrations. Remember George W. Bush looked into Vladimir Putin's soul, and then you had, of course, you had President Obama, leaning over to Medvedev, who was keeping the seat warm for Putin, saying, hey, we can work together after the election. And then Secretary Clinton, brought the reset button to Lavrov. So what I argue in the book is, hey, let's just stop that now and recognize that Putin is going to be hostile, and that we have to deter not only an open conflict with Russia, which would be disastrous, but we have to deter what I call in the book Russian new generation warfare, which is Russia's attempt to undermine us and accomplish objectives below the threshold of what might elicit a military response from the United States and NATO and so forth.
Well, and of course, it's so important, General. I'm so glad that you lay out in perspective the fact that the United States, time and again in the 21st century, has underestimated Vladimir Putin's designs on certainly not world domination like the Chinese, but at least wanting to shake things up and at least having a pretense of cobbling back together the old Soviet empire. But before we move on, let me try this one more time. You brought up, you said you weren't exactly sure why Donald Trump responded the way he did to the poisoning. I'm curious, any insights you can give us at all on why he would behave the way he did in Helsinki, deferring to Vladimir Putin instead of his own intel community, why he won't speak out against putting bounties on the heads of young Americans when his own intel community was pushing him to do so as early as May?
Yeah, Joe. I was gone at that point, and I felt it was my duty when I was there to present the president with the best analysis from across all departments and agencies. And what I found is, when presented with that analysis, he made good decisions on Russia. I mean, if you might recall that in that first year of his presidency, he imposed a tremendous number of sanctions on Putin and his criminalized patronage network.
Right. But General, you understand the question, though, that I'm asking you. Obviously, this just doesn't make sense, even to Dan Coats. Can you make any sense of it?
No, it doesn't make sense, Joe. I mean, I think that really what we have to do is see Russian behavior for what it is. And as you alluded to, right, Russia's not strong. I mean, I'll tell you, Putin has a lot of problems these days, right? He's coping with COVID-19 and what was really an ineffective response to it, the collapse of oil prices. He has a weak economy. The economy is about the size of Texas, or Italy. And so Putin knows he can't compete with us on our own terms, except maybe with nuclear weapons, which is a scary prospect. But what he's trying to do is drag us down, right? That's really the approach he's taking, because he hopes if he breaks Europe apart, if he pits communities against each other within European countries and pits European countries against each other, collapses the EU, tries to pull NATO apart by pulling Turkey in or cultivating relationships with particular countries within NATO. What he hopes to be is he wants to be the last man standing. As all of us are consumed with these internal conflicts and lack of confidence in our democratic principles and institutions and processes.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.